I've done a few videos comparing the Ford's EcoBoost and PowerBoost and Ram's high output and standard output Hurricane. Now it's time to put them up against each other to see who has the better engine. This is the Ford PowerBoost. This is the high output Hurricane. I borrowed these trucks from Larry H. Miller, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram in Sandy, Utah, and Larry H. Miller Super Ford in Salt Lake City. Both of these trucks are available for sale. Let's go ahead and drive the Ford first, and then we'll drive the Ram right after. So let's do a quick rev comparison. This is a PowerBoost, so it is a hybrid. Sometimes the engine turns on and off, but here it goes. Wow, that sucks. But that's because, again, it's a hybrid. Engine just turned off. But again, as far as the power numbers go, that's why I have to use this one against that. And you guys will see that here in a second. But let's go ahead and get down the road. I just want you guys to hear how it sounded. And actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and listen to the Ram next so you guys can get a feel for what that sounds like back to back. Here is the startup for the Ram. I can't wait to test the EcoBoost against really both of these engines, the standard output and high output, because you can get the high output in these higher trim levels, but the standard output is from a Laramie down, basically, including the Rebel. It sounds really good, and I'm impressed. The inline 6 has a nice rev too, like it's really fast for the most part. And if you don't know this, the inline 6s don't have as much balancers as those V6s do, so that's just another advantage that you're going to get with this powertrain. In a perfect world, this truck would make the most sense every single time, especially in the half-ton segment. Better fuel economy in the city, and this truck has 7,000 watts of power in the bed, and because it's a platinum, it has massage seats, which I'm going to put on right now. So all you have to do is go into settings, and when you hit settings, you have to go into seats, and there they are. We're going to turn on, let's do full recovery. It has 3 intensity levels. We're going to put it on max. Oh yeah, that feels good. And what's nice about Ford is they have it on the top and the bottom too, and it has a good amount of pressure. Now let's talk about this PowerBoost. This engine is probably the most overrated one out there, and it's only because it's a 6-cylinder made into a hybrid system, which is all not manly, right? That's what we always talk about, is trucks are supposed to be manly. They're not supposed to have massaging seats. Like, what the heck? This is a truck, right? But no, I think that the times have changed just a little bit, where trucks are now being used as cars, because a lot of people don't buy BMW 7 Series, Mercedes S-Class, or even Lexus LS, not to mention Audi A8, which not a lot of people bought those cars. But my point is, this is what they want to drive. They handle like cars, they have a nice smooth ride, and if you need to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you can put stuff in the back of the bed. Now, when you go around curves with the Ford, this truck is well balanced. Like, it really does feel like a sports pickup truck. It does. And the brakes, you know, this has regenerative braking, and if you don't hit the brakes too hard, they're not touchy. But Ford brakes are historically touchy for me. But every time I drive one of these trucks, the more and more I like the idea of getting a half-ton. But these are not really built for heavy-duty towing like I do. So for most people, this is just good for around-the-house activities, maybe towing a 6,000-7,000 pound trailer max because of the payload, which you guys will see here in the video. But this truck does have the hand coupe tires, just riding on 20-inch wheels. It has Blue Cruise, by the way, too. It just popped up on you, say, hey, do you want to use it? Sure, why not? Let's just go ahead and use it and see. Now, their system is probably second to GM's, but it's probably gonna be better than Ram's at this point, because they have a driver assistance, but you have to keep your hand on the steering wheel. Well, with Blue Cruise, you don't have to keep your hand on the steering wheel, which is nice. But one thing I'll tell you guys is this: when it comes down to overall quality, this truck has a lot of nice features. As you guys heard about the massaging seats, it also has ventilated seats and they work amazing. But the quality of this truck is top notch. Like, I've gotten into so many of these, and for the most part, they're built really well. Now let's go ahead and drive the Ram. Oh yeah, there's a totally different feel when you go from a Ford to a Ram. That's why I always tell people it's crazy to be biased, it's crazy to be a fanboy, because unless you go out and drive it all, there's just so much different between the two trucks. Like, these seats feel bigger. That's the first thing I noticed getting inside this truck. And this truck does feel smoother. As I said, that Ford has more of a sportier feel, and sometimes when you think about sporty, you have to think about the dampening that the truck has, right? The bounce that it has. This truck has air suspension on all four corners, or on all corners, as I say, 4-corner air suspension. And you can tell just how much smoother it is. Now, this truck has 20s, that Ford has 20s. This has Bridgestone Dueler tires compared to the Hankooks. And I couldn't tell you which one is smoother. Like, they're both great tires. If I had to pick, I think I would choose Hankook, because I've owned a few of those tires in the past and they've held up well and they don't get loud over time. I haven't owned any Bridgestone tires from what I can remember. But yeah, this truck is the most smoothest in the segment with the air suspension. And crazy enough, this is not the highest trim level anymore. Ram now has the Longhorn above the Limited, and now they have a new one called the Tungsten, and that's a big boy. Like, that is the ultra luxury, ultra premium in its class of its own luxury truck. Now, as I said earlier, you guys heard me say it, you don't need all this in a truck. A truck is supposed to do truck stuff. But again, it's not the same anymore. People drive trucks now who normally wouldn't 25, 30 years ago, because they wanted that sedan. That big sedan was the status. Now owning a nice luxury truck is. That Ford had massaging seats. For 2025, so does the Ram. And Ram, I feel as though they make it easier for me personally. Like, they have it on top and bottom, so they're really going hard in the paint with the Limited, because it's no longer super expensive. If you didn't watch the last video, again, I will put it into this one. This truck is a really good bargain for the amount of features you get. And man, guys, the brake feel on the Rams are the best. They're not touchy. But I will say, I feel as though Ford just gives you more for the money. It just does. If you look at the total amount of what you get, Ram makes a lot of things optional. Like, this truck does not have 360 camera. Huge fail on Ram's side. On an $80,000 truck, we shouldn't even be talking about that as an option. Crazy. And you got to spend $4,000 to get 360 camera view. It's crazy. But at the end of the day, when you think about the size of the cab, this is definitely bigger. When you think about just the overall prestige that Ram has now, I think Ford is still slightly above the Ram, but it's not far off anymore. Ram might just be right there. Now, the Tungsten's in a different level. It's in a class of its own. But this truck is definitely premium luxury for sure. And I love the mirrors. They have convex on both sides. It's just a great truck, and you definitely, if you're not a Ram guy, if you're not a Ford guy, you should just become one and just drive them all. Because if you do, I think that you will find that you like something in each truck, and you might find the one that fits you the best, right? But yeah, it's definitely well done on this side when it comes down to luxury, fit and finish, and quality. It's definitely top notch. Here's a quick look at the RPMs at 65 miles an hour. We're just over 1,500 RPMs. Now, this truck has a 373 rear. Now, let's go ahead and get up to 75. Love the way the transmission feels too. You don't even feel the shifts at all. Now, I believe the electric motor is between the engine and the transmission on this truck. So you guys see where we are now? We're about 1,800, 1,900 RPMs right there. And you guys see the temperatures. 201 on the engine coolant, transmission temp is 179, engine oil temp is 194. And that's all they give you on this one. But all in all, I'm impressed. Like, as I said, you guys can see my massage seats right there. Interior is top notch. They have a lot of nice features. Like, look at the blue accents right here. This is really truly a nice pickup. I did do a video comparing the Limited and the Platinum, so you want to see more of the interior, be sure to watch the video at the end of this one. Now, I was a little shocked by Ram adding a 392 out back for the axle ratio. You know, this truck has a lot of power, which you'll hear here in a second, okay? But we're at, actually I drove this truck down from Sandy, which is probably about 10 miles away, and I got 19.3 on that drive. Now that was just all highway. I reset it on the highway, so, and then I was idling and as I was looking for the truck to put it up against. But you guys see at, let me drop down really quickly to 65 so you guys can see that RPM. So you guys can see right there, we're right at 2,000 RPMs. Now I did a test like this comparing it against the standard output with the 392 as well, and they were pretty much the exact same. Now let's talk about these temperatures. So you guys see coolant's 198, transmission is a ZF transmission, always runs cooler than Ford's, 149, and then here's that oil, 198, which is typical. I mean, those temperatures are pretty in line. And then here's the new dipstick for the Ram trucks. You don't have one under the hood anymore, you have it on the screen here. But yeah, all in all, I think that most people will find this truck to be one of the best when it comes down to having a luxury truck. I think it's definitely up there with Ford in this trim level. But my goodness, when you get to the tungsten, I haven't seen one yet, but I just know what it's mirroring. It's basically mirroring the Grand Wagoneers, and it's gonna have that same feel. So whenever I have a chance, I can't wait to show you guys that truck. But yeah, this is definitely one of the best. And as I said in the last video, this truck does not have like a true self-driving system. It's an active driving assist, but you have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, so it's not as nice as Ford's and GM's. Here is the gross vehicle weight rating for the Ford, 7,400 pounds. You guys see that axle rating out back, 4,150. And then here is the Payload at 1,419 pounds. Here are the numbers for the Ram. Gross vehicle weight rating is going to be 7,100 pounds. Gross axle rating out back is 41. And then all in payload is 1,331. Here is the midpoint for the Ford. Now we are going to be hitting the light right here. Okay. Let me show you guys where the MPG is on that trip one. That did reset it for you guys. So we're at 18.9, which is pretty dang good actually. I haven't done any acceleration yet. You guys can see too, I've driven about 0.2 miles on just electric mode, and that's because most of this trip has been on the highway so far, right? We've gone 7.3 miles. Now, right now, this is where the hybrid just wins. When you're coming off, oh, actually, I mean, I thought I did it nice and easy, but I guess I didn't. But yeah, I'm on gas power now. But if you can really keep that throttle down low, you can run on 100% electric while you're driving at these lower speeds, which this is the killer for fuel economy, when you have to stop, then go again. And that's where this one really does shine. But we're gonna head back the opposite direction. Are you guys ready to see this? Shocking. I'm actually a little shocked by this. Now I drove the trucks the exact same. I try to stay around the same speed. 65 to about 73 is as fast as I go on this road here. And shockingly, we are ahead of the Ford. Now, if you're shocked by that, you shouldn't be. Obviously, this truck has what I call no extra weight from a hybrid system. So right out of the gate, this truck does have less components. It's a little bit lighter, and hybrid systems don't do much for you on the highway. Now, if I was to drive the trucks back to back in a city, that would be a different story. What sucks about doing this test is I have to be very careful of the vehicles around me. For example, there's a truck right here, right? If I use this, it will pick up on that sound every single time. That's why I don't like using this in certain spots, and this is like the best spot to do it. So we're going 70 miles an hour. This is the Ford. So 63 right here by the window. 67. '61, '62 out back. Let's go and check out the Ram. I'm at 68 miles an hour. This truck is louder. Now by the window it's saying 65. And it's saying 60, 61 out back. But right here is louder. It's 64, 65. Here is the 3.5 liter twin turbo hybrid known as the PowerBoost. It's going to have 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque. All that power does go through a 10-speed transmission, and as you guys heard earlier, 373 rear. Here we go.
30. 60.
So this is currently the class-leading 6-cylinder twin-turbo engine known as the Hurricane. 540 horsepower, 521 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes through an 8-speed transmission, and it has a 392 rear end. Let's see how it performs. Here we go.
30. 60.
We just rolled back in with the Ford. Oh, I don't have my stuff up here, my bad. So this is for the trip one. And you guys can see 18.3 MPG after that, 0 to 60, 15.1 miles driven. And in case you would like to see the gauges for the temperatures, here they are. And here's where we ended off at, 18.8, 15 miles driven. Not too bad. So here's the temperature on that rear diff. 133 is what it topped out at. About 163 on the brakes. Here's some of the temperatures down below. I saw about 450 earlier. So that axle's at 110 degrees. Brakes are about 122. And lastly, turbo. It's not as hot as that Ford, about half. I was expecting the Ford to do just a little bit better today, just a little bit better. But you know what? It's all good. The Ram cleaned up today. It's very rare that Ram gets every single win, and I'm really happy that they did, because all it does is makes Ford, who's probably asleep right now, say, you know what? It's time to really step our game up, because that's what always happens whenever a new engine comes out, whenever a new interior comes out, they always bring their game. And with Ram having 540 horsepower in their limited Longhorn and the tungsten trim, they're just surpassing Ford in every single way. Now, here's the negative with this engine. Unfortunately, you do have to use premium fuel if you get this engine. Ford, on the other hand, only requires regular fuel for this PowerBoost. So that is gonna hurt the Ram here with this 100,000 mile cost analysis that I'll do when I post this video. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. But with that being said, it really comes down to what you're looking for. I think a hybrid truck makes a lot more sense. And when you think about the cost of the engine, you're not gonna get that much fuel savings on the highway. But if you do a lot of city driving, $1,900 will make up for the difference, because you have a 22 city versus 15. So if I were to do the math on just the city driving, this truck would get even worse because of the premium fuel that it requires. And yes, it requires premium fuel, but I hope you guys liked the video. See right there, 91 plus octane. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Doing these videos They're fun for me, but there's a lot of work because adding that camera on the back and having to put all this together, no joke. But I have fun doing it, and I like doing these tests, so I want to make them a little bit more interesting when I do them. So yes, be sure to support the channel. Later.